I walked away from the only man who ever truly loved me. For a man who only wanted me when it was convenient. And by the time I realized the difference, I had already destroyed everything. My name is Emma Collins. I'm 32 years old, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Sometimes the worst mistake of your life doesn't happen in one moment. Sometimes it happens slowly, one selfish choice at a time. Jordan and I were together for 6 years. 6 years of shared apartments, grocery lists, movie nights, lazy Sundays, and the kind of comfort people spend their whole lives searching for. He was steady, reliable, loving in a quiet way that never demanded attention. Every morning he kissed my forehead before work. Every night he asked how my day went, like he genuinely cared about the answer. When I got sick, he stayed up with me. When I doubted myself, he reminded me who I was, and somehow I started calling that boring. We got engaged in the spring. He proposed during a weekend trip to the mountains. Nothing flashy, just the two of us standing under strings of warm lights outside a cabin while snow fell around us. I remember crying when he slid the ring onto my finger. I remember thinking, this is the safest I've ever felt. I wish I had protected that feeling better. A few months later, I met Garrett at the gym. He was everything Jordan wasn't. Loud where Jordan was calm. Confident where Jordan was gentle. The kind of man who knew exactly how to look at a woman long enough to make her feel chosen. At first it was harmless. Small conversations near the treadmills. Jokes by the smoothie counter. A follow on Instagram. Then late night messages. You still awake? You looked amazing today. You ever think you settled too early? That last one stayed in my head longer than it should have, because somewhere deep inside me, something ugly had started growing. I stopped appreciating stability. I started craving excitement. Jordan would text me things like, need anything from the store. Garrett would text, come over, and somehow I convinced myself the second message meant passion while the first meant routine. I told myself I deserved to feel alive again. That's the lie people tell themselves before they ruin their lives. The affair started 4 months before the wedding. Hotel rooms during lunch breaks. Lies about late meetings. Fake girls' nights. Every time I came home afterward, Jordan smiled at me like I was still the love of his life. And every single time, guilt clawed at my chest, but not enough to stop me. That's the part nobody wants to admit about cheating. You know you're hurting someone. You just keep choosing yourself anyway. Garrett never promised me anything. That should have been my warning. He never talked about a future. Never asked about wedding plans. Never once said, leave him for me. I was never his priority. I was just convenient. But I ignored every red flag because being wanted felt intoxicating. Jordan loved me quietly. Garrett desired me loudly. And I confused desire with value. The worst part? Jordan knew something was wrong before he ever found out. I saw it in the way he started looking at me. Like he was trying to solve a puzzle that terrified him. He asked if we were okay one night while we were eating takeout on the couch. I smiled and said, of course. Then I went into the bathroom and answered Garrett's texts while Jordan cleaned the kitchen. I still hate myself for that. Everything fell apart on a Tuesday. Ordinary days are cruel like that. Life-changing disasters rarely arrive with dramatic music. I left my phone and locked on the bed while I showered. Garrett sent a message. Explicit. Impossible to explain away. When I walked back into the bedroom, Jordan was sitting there holding my phone. I'll never forget his face. Not anger, not rage. Just devastation. Pure devastation. How long? He asked quietly. My throat closed. How long? Emma, for months. I whispered. He stared at the floor for a long time after that. Then he asked the question that still haunts me. Why? And I had no answer. No answer good enough. No answer that could justify destroying someone who had done nothing except love me faithfully. Jordan stood up slowly and started packing a bag. I followed him around the apartment crying, apologizing, begging him not to leave. But he moved around me like I wasn't even there anymore. Like something inside him had already died. At the door, he finally looked at me. And I swear I watched 6 years disappear from his eyes in real time. I would have given you everything, he said softly. Then he walked out. No screaming. No slammed doors. Just silence. Honestly, that silence hurt more than yelling ever could have. I called Garrett that night. Told him everything. Told him I needed him. 6 hours later he replied, "That's rough. Maybe we should take some space." That was the moment reality finally hit me. I had destroyed my future for a man who didn't even want the responsibility of comforting me afterward. Jordan blocked me everywhere within a week. His family never spoke to me again. Mutual friends slowly disappeared. Even the friends who once encouraged me to follow my heart suddenly became uncomfortable when they realized what I had actually done. Cheating sounds exciting in secret. In daylight, it just looks ugly. Garrett vanished completely after that. I saw him once months later at the gym flirting with another woman near the weight racks. Same smile. Same hand on her lower back. Same game. And suddenly I realized I had never been special, just available. I moved into a tiny apartment across town. Sold half my furniture because I couldn't afford the rent alone. The wedding venue kept part of our deposit. The dress stayed zipped in my closet for months before I finally donated it. Sometimes I'd wake up at 3 a.m. remembering tiny things about Jordan. The way he always warmed up my side of the bed before I got in. How he remembered my coffee order after one date. How he kissed my shoulder absent-mindedly while cooking dinner. Little ordinary things. The things I once called boring. Funny how quickly stability becomes priceless once you lose it. About 7 months later, I saw him again. I was at a coffee shop downtown when he walked in holding hands with another woman. She looked kind. Peaceful. The kind of woman who probably never made him question his worth. Jordan was smiling. Really smiling. And for the first time since the breakup, I realized something painful. He was going to be okay. I was the one still trapped in the ruins. I hid behind a shelf until they left because I couldn't bear the idea of him seeing what I'd become. Someone who traded real love for temporary validation. Someone who confused excitement with happiness. My therapist says shame can either destroy you or teach you. I'm still figuring out which one this will be. People love talking about self-forgiveness like it's simple. It is and single quotes t. Especially when your pain was self-inflicted. Especially when the person you hurt didn't deserve any of it. I don't tell this story because I want sympathy. I tell it because somewhere out there, someone is probably standing exactly where I once stood, bored with stability. Tempted by attention, mistaking chaos for passion. And if that person is listening, I need them to understand something before they ruin their own life the way I ruined mine. The person who truly loves you will not always feel exciting. Sometimes love looks ordinary. Sometimes it looks like grocery store runs and folded laundry and someone asking if you got home safe. Don't confuse peace with emptiness, because the people who love you consistently are rare, and the people who only want you when it's convenient, they disappear the moment your life catches fire. I learned that too late, and by then, the only person left standing in the ashes was me.